Okay, so looking at our do now, we'll measure the sides in just a second, but let's first of all, since you have these protractors, let's measure this angle, see how big this angle is real quick. So let's measure this angle right here. See how big that angle is right there.
31.
Okay.
31.
Yeah, it got off just a little bit. I can never get it perfect, but
In there and on the top.
all right. My goal was for it to be 30, okay? So it's a little bit more than that. We're going to go ahead and say it's 30. Alrighty. Yeah, it probably is closer to 31. I'm just going to say it's 30. I'm going to cheat a little bit there. All right, so how big is this angle right here? This angle's 90. And then how big is this angle up here? Well, if the other one's 31, this one has to go the other way. It has to be a little bit less than 60. Okay, so my goal is for it to be this, okay, to be a 30, 60, 90 like what we talked about yesterday. Now let's measure it and see what's up here. So I'm going to measure this side right here. So how long is this side?
6.3.
7.5. This 3.
Okay. So about 6.3. Somewhere around there. Okay. Now, before I measure anything else, and I asked you to measure everything, so you already had those on there, but before I measure anything else, I want to talk about this. All right. So yesterday we talked about the rules on a 30, 60, 90. We did the Pythagorean theorem to see how that stuff worked, but I just want you to see it like practically happening right here. Okay, so when we knew the short leg, how did we find the hypotenuse? Multiplied by what? By 2. The hypotenuse was just twice whatever this was, okay? So if I take 6.3 and multiply that by 2, what do I get? Okay, so if I take 6.3 times 2, should give me 12.6. So let's measure the hypotenuse and see how close to that we get. And what does that look like? 12.6, just like what that rule says. And these are not exact, obviously, because I didn't get these angles right here, and it's hard to measure this exactly with these rulers, but that's pretty good. Okay, short leg to the hypotenuse is double. And remember the rule going from the short leg to the long leg. Yep, times the square root of some number.
3.
Yep, times the square root of 3. So if I take 6.3 times the square root of 3, should be about 10.9. So let's measure it and see how close to that this is. And right there. It's a little bit less, again, because these angles are not exactly right, but it's right there. Okay? So we used the Pythagorean theorem yesterday to see that, but I just want you to see here, in real life, it works. If you take the short leg times 2, it gives you the hypotenuse. If you take the short leg times the square root of 3, it gives you that long leg. Okay? All right, I'm going to skip that second one. Let's go ahead and flip over and look at this. Okay, so before we look at these problems, I just want to remind you of these rules here real quick. Okay, so on a 30, 60, 90, when you know, okay, this side right here, what side is this right here? What do we call this? That is the hypotenuse. And again, I still don't have an Apple Pencil yet, so this is not looking too good. But that's the hypotenuse. What is this side right here? Is that the long or the short side? That's the short leg right there. Okay? That's the short leg. And then this side right here is what? That is the long leg. So remember, if you know the hypotenuse, to find the short leg, you just divide by 2. If you know the long leg, to find the short leg, to go from here to here, you divide by the square root of 3. All right, and then the opposite of that is if you start with the short leg and you want to find the hypotenuse, you multiply by 2. If you know the short leg and you're looking for the long leg, you multiply by the square root of 3. Okay, so let's think about this right here. So on this one we have 15, x and y. That 15, is it the hypotenuse, short leg, or long leg? This is the long leg. Okay, that's the long leg. Now what I want to do is go from the long leg to this short leg. All right, so as I look at my rule here, when I'm going from long leg to short leg, what do? Divide by what? Right here, divide by the square root of 3. So here it's just going to be 15 divided by the square root of 3. And again, really we don't want that square root in the bottom there, but we're just going to leave that like that for now. Okay? And then from here to the hypotenuse, what do? You double it. Okay? So what's it going to be? It's going to be 30 over the square root of 3. All right. Next one. That 12 right there, is it the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? This is the long leg again. Remember the little rule I showed you? The right angle is always pointing towards the hypotenuse. Sometimes it's kind of hard just looking at it to tell the difference between the long leg and the hypotenuse, but if you use that little trick right there, that arrow's always pointing towards the hypotenuse, or it's like an arrow pointing towards the hypotenuse. Okay, so from the long leg to the short leg, what do? Divide by square root of 3. So 12 divided by the square root of 3. And then from that short leg to the hypotenuse, double it. And it's going to give us 24 over the square root of 3. All right. 3b. That 10, is that the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? Yeah, this one's the hypotenuse, right? Remember, you got this little arrow here pointing towards the hypotenuse. That is the hypotenuse. So going from the hypotenuse to the short leg, what do? Yep. Again, I'm just looking back down here at these rules. From the hypotenuse to the short leg, you divide by 2. Okay, so if that's 10, how long is that short leg, the x there? It's 5. It's half of that. And then from the short leg to the long leg, what do? Right here from this. Yep. Good. So from the short leg to the long leg, you multiply by the square root of 3. So this just gives me 5 times the square root of 3. Okay, on 3C, that 21. Is that the short leg, long leg, or hypotenuse? This is the short leg. Okay, so from the short leg to the hypotenuse, what do? Right here, from the short leg to the hypotenuse, what do? Times 2. It's double. Right, so 21 times 2. $42. And then from the short leg to the long leg, what do? Good, times the square root of 3. So 21 times the square root of 3. Okay, Let's jump down here. So on number 18, okay, that 8 square root of 3, is that the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse?
Long leg.
That's the long leg. So from the long leg to the short leg, what do we do?
Divide by square root of 3.
Good, divide by the square root of 3. So if you have 8 square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3, what's going to happen?
8.
It's just going to turn into 8. Those square root of 3s, right? 8 square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3. Those square root of 3s cancel the 1, really? It just leaves 8. Now from the short leg to the hypotenuse, what do we do? Double it. Good. So what's it going to be?
16.
16. Yep. Good. All right, number 19, that 10 square root of 3. Is it the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? It's the long leg. So from the long leg to the short leg, what do we do?
Divide by 3 square.
Divide by square root of 3, so what's that going to leave?
10.
It's going to be 10.
Double it.
Then double it, it'd be 20.
Double it and you get 20. Yep. Okay, number 20. So this 15, is it the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? This is the hypotenuse. Okay, remember, you got your little arrow pointing towards the hypotenuse. Okay, so from the hypotenuse to the short leg, what do we do?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. So what is that? 15 over 2, or we'll just go ahead and write it as 7.5. And then from the short leg to the long leg, what do we do?
No, you.
Times the square root of 3. So we'll just write it as 7.5 square roots of 3. Remember, whenever you're going from the short leg to the long leg, like this right here, you multiply by the square root of 3. Okay, so just remember, just go back, use these rules right here. I know it's kind of a mess, but it'll get you where you need on that. Okay, on the back, I want you to try number 21, 22, and 23 real quick.
21, 22.
Those three at the top of the page
I
there.
wanna do the hypotenuse.
Okay, so on number 21, okay, that's 17. Is it the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? It's the hypotenuse. So to get from the hypotenuse back to this short leg, what do we do?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. So what does that give you?
8.5.
Gives you 8.5. And then from that short leg to the long leg,
8.5 square root of 3.
good, you just multiply it by the square root of 3. Okay, number 22. That 24, is it the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse?
Leg.
It's the short leg. Okay, so from the short leg to the hypotenuse, what do we do? Double it. So what is that?
48.
It's 48. And then from the short leg to the long leg, what do we do?
Square root of 3.
Good, times the square root of 3. That gives me 24 square roots of 3. And then on number 23, that 14, is it the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? That is the long leg. So for the long leg to the short leg, what do we do?
14 square root of 3. Right?
Okay, now from the long leg to the short leg, it's going the opposite direction. So we
Divide.
divide by the square root of 3. I don't know if that's what you said. I didn't hear you totally. But it's 14 divided by the square root of 3. And so then the short leg is 14 divided by the square root of 3. How long is the hypotenuse?
28.
28 divided by the square root of 3. Okay, so then real quick, number 4. That 10 square root of 3, long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse? There's a short leg. So how long is the hypotenuse, the y? 20 square roots of 3. And then for the x, okay, so for here down to here, what do we do?
Divide.
Double it.
Okay, Okay, so it's going to be 10 square root of 3 times the square root of 3.
6.
So that's 10 square root of 9. Right, 3 times 3 is 9. And then square root of 9 is what? 3. So 10 times 3 will be 30. Okay, number 5. That 12 is the long leg. So the short leg is 12 divided by the square root of 3. And then the y is going to be 24 divided by the square root of 3. Number 6, that 2 square roots of 3 is the hypotenuse. And so going back to the short leg, it's half of that cut in half. So 2 square roots of 3 cut in half is 1 square root of 3. And then from here to here, it's times the square root of 3. So 1 square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 1 square root of 9.
Goes back to 3, so it'll be 2,
Just 1 times 3,
3.
so it's 3. Okay, so on number 6, 8 is what, the long leg, short leg, or hypotenuse?
Hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse, so what is x? 4, it's half of that, and the y is 4 square roots of 3. Yep. All right, on number 7, this 7 square roots of 3 is the long leg. So going back to the short leg, we divide by the square root of 3. So that's 7, and that makes the hypotenuse 14. Now on the last one, number 8. Okay, 10 is the short leg, so the hypotenuse is double that. It's 20, and x, the long leg, is the short leg times the square root of 3. So 10 square roots of 3.